僕が本気で剣術に打ち込むようになったのはあなたのおかげなんです。そのあなたのためなら人で亡くなることぐらい些細なことだ。お願いします。今度こそあなたを守らせてください。
Iba stared at me with an unwavering disposition. My love for him made my heart heavy with worry. However, if Iba's true purpose was to live life by the sword, there's only one thing I could do to help him. I had reached into the pocket and grabbed the glass vial to place in front of him. His voice trembled.
ありがとうございます。
He held the bottle, looking at it with a peculiar sense of wonder, and placed it back into his pocket. Just then,
姫様、お伝えしたいことが。
おきく、何かあったの？
行動と武田が結界を破って里に侵入しました。今こちらに向かっている様子です。
Oh! Great! Absolutely the news that we needed.
なんですって？二人はここから逃げてちょうだい。あの二人がここに来たということは、おそらくあなたを狙っているはず。
I nodded back to her sternly, and Iba and I gathered ourselves to leave the room. Oh, shit! I heard the sound of flesh being sliced open along with a brutal blood-curdling scream. Then, a man covered in blood burst in, falling to the floor. This man, I think he was the one who had been guarding the entrance to this building. Sen glared in angrily in the direction of the forest. Shortly afterwards, a figure was approaching us casually, someone I had no desire to see.
やはりここにいたのか。
Father, Takeda, what are you doing here?
どうしてだって？決まっているじゃないか。お前を迎えに来たのだよ。まったく手間をかけさせてくれる。
そういうことを言ってるんじゃないわ。あんた、よくここに顔を出せたわね。
Sen had stood in an indignant rage, glaring at my father. Father, however, seemed unfazed.
この間は目くらましにかけられたが、お前ごとき、この私の相手ではない。
Kimikiko raided her stance, preparing herself to fight Takeda, but
遅い。
Takeda seemed to move 3 paces quicker. Flustered by the rapid swings of Takeda's fists, Kimikiko was eventually thrown to the side. No!
造作もない。
He gazed over Kimikiko's body on the floor and turned to face Iba.
死に損ないが、まだ生きていたのか。人間の体というのは案外丈夫にできているらしい。
Iba unsheathed his sword, bracing himself to block a strike from Takeda.
バカめ、遅いわ。
Takeda anticipated Ichiba's counterattack, intercepting his sword easily. If it came to the two of them engaging in hand-to-hand combat, then there was no way Iba could stand a chance. Damn it. Both he and his sword were flung aside. What could I do? I knew that I wasn't really any match for Takeda. However, abandoning Iba and Kimikiko to escape was not an option. Though my hands were trembling, I nervously reached for the kodachi on my hips.
何をしているんだね。お前の腕前では武田君にかなわぬことぐらい分かっているはずだろ
お前などこの場で切り捨てても一向に構わんのだが、行動には一応借りがあるのでな。共に来てもらうぞ、雪村。
At a small window, I tried to find an opening into which I could strike Takeda. However, a hateful aura radiated from his entire body, intimidating me from stepping forward. I had to close my ears, blocking out the hateful thoughts to step forward and conquer that fear.
いいですよね。彼らをこのままにしておいたら幕軍の敗北は確実だ。たとえ人の歴史から消え去ることになったとしても、僕はこの道を選ぶ。
I heard the shattering of glass. Then Takeda's eyes were wide with shock.
貴様、その腕は一体何だ。
なんだとは、あなたもよくご存知のはずですが。
There was a coldness to Iba's tone, puffing his chest and arms out confidently. Takeda furrowed his brows, scowling at Iba as his teeth gritted from hatred.
そうか、貴様も落ち水を飲んだのだな。そしてその腕を手に入れた。貴様も人の血をすする化け物になり果てたわけだ。
ええ、あなたと同じようにね。
Iba responded stoically, continuing on with a fixed gaze upon Takeda.
ですが、一つ伝えなくてはなりません。僕はあなたと違い、己の意志でこの力を得たということです。同じく腕を失い、同じ力を得ても、僕たちの目的は違う。僕のこの力は、誰かを守り、思いを貫くために使う。
The floor shook beneath Iba as he gathered his strength, causing Takeda to step back slowly. Immediately, Iba had unsheathed his sword, and by the time I blinked, he had already closed the distance between himself and Takeda. The swords danced in a flurry of movements too quick to see with my eyes, and Iba's newfound strength and speed made his display masterful.
くそ。
Takeda struggled to keep up with the pace of Iba's barrage of strikes, panting in the frenzy. If there was a question of which of the two demons was stronger, it was clear Iba had the advantage.
どうやらこの場では我々が不利なようですな。せっかく得た鬼の力をここで失うのは得策ではありません。ここは引くのが賢明か。
なんだと、貴様。
あの男などいつでも殺せます。ここでこだわって命を落とすつもりですか。
Reluctantly, Takeda heeded my father's words, sheathing his sword back into its scabbard.
今日は遅れを取ったが、次こそ必ず貴様の首を取ってやる。覚悟しておけ、伊庭八郎。
待って! I rushed up to stop them, but Father and Takeda vanished like mist without a trace. After we had regrouped ourselves, we sat with Sen and Kimigiku about what to do next.
私たちは奪われた鬼の右腕を取り返すため、あの二人を追うことにするわ。
Will the both of you be okay? Just earlier, it seemed like neither of them stood a chance against Takeda. If they were to meet again on the battlefield, how would the outcome be any different?
やるしかないわ。あいつらに殺された里の鬼たちのためにも。
正面から戦って勝利するのは難しいでしょうが、成功法ばかりが戦いではありませんから。
Sen and Kimigiku seemed set in their resolve to find him, but I could sense what felt like a little bit of nervousness towards what was about to come.
何度も言うようだけど、伊庭さん、あなたのその力は決して人の目に触れさせてはいけないものよ。人間相手には絶対にその力を使わないでちょうだい。分かってるわね。
はい、分かってます。
本当なら落ち水なんてものを使うのは認められないのよ。伊庭さんのことだって認めているけど、認めているわけじゃないんだから。
姫様、何を言ってるかわかりません。
Thank you, Sen. I don't know how I can ever repay you. I can't thank you enough.
お礼を言われることじゃないわ。もっと別の方法があれば、あなたの大切な人を羅刹になんてしなくても済んだのに。
それはいい子なしです。少なくともこの戦が終わるまでは。それじゃあそろそろ行きましょうか。
Please, Sen and Kimigiku, be careful.
この左腕、しばらくの間借り受けます。時が来れば返しますから。
After we said our goodbyes, we bowed to them, walking out of the village back to Osaka Castle. I have no idea how the fight against Takeda and father will turn out, but for now, ours is another path. All we can do now is move forward, no matter what awaits us. With a newfound resolve for the future, I hang on into oblivion. Iba and I made our descent down the path of the mountain. After becoming separated from Sen, we had left the Yase village to head towards Osaka Castle. We happened to sneak past what was left of the Sacho troops a few times. 4 days had passed since the fighting broke out, and on January 7th we had finally arrived at Osaka Castle. We're here. We're finally here. Seeing the majestic castle filled me with an incredible amount of relief.
ここに新選組のみんなが。
Iba looked up, marveling at the grand castle as it loomed over the moonlit forest. I too felt quite overwhelmed by the view, but it seemed like Iba's expression indicated he was stuck on something he couldn't shake off. Basically, or eventually, he turned to look at me.
一つ頼みがあります。
What is it? I had no idea what Vivi could possibly be thinking of at a time like this, so I waited nervously for him to continue.
僕が落ち水を口にしたことは、新選組の人たちには秘密にしておいてほしいんです。
Oh! So you're taking the secret route. This isn't gonna last long. What? But I could understand that he may have not wanted his longtime friends to know he'd become a fury, but His health could dwindle in the future, and it wasn't like being a fury was something you could hide forever. However, Eva seemed to read the concern in my face, and he continued.
この先ずっとというわけではありません。時が来れば僕の方から話します。ただ今はまだ踏ん切りがつかないんです。
Eva watched the moonlight radiate its cold light behind the clouds above. Was it for my sake that he seemed conflicted about all of this? So, how have you been feeling?
今のところ問題ありません。むしろ前よりも元気になった気がしますよ。
That's good. I'm happy to hear it. Iba hadn't seemed to suffer any of the afflictions that came with becoming a fury or attaching to himself the demon's arm. In my heart, though, I had made a wish, even if I knew it may not come to anything. I had prayed that the water of life, nor Iba's new demonic limb, would do him any harm.
誰か近づいてくるみたいです。
I gasped, looking up to see. Two shadows crept from the distance, walking towards us.
そこにいるのは誰ですか?
Shimada! And Soma! Both of you are safe!
雪村先輩、よかった。心配してたんですよ。
I'm fine. Iba saved me and escorted me back here safely.
ありがとうございます、伊庭さん。本当にありがとうございます。
I want to hug these two.
礼には及びません。トシさんたちは無事ですか？
はい。中で幹部大使の方々と今後のことを話し合っているところです。
今後のこと？そうですよね。薩長を迎え撃たなくてはなりませんからね。
After Hachiro offered up his suggestion, Shimada and Soma looked at one another, falling silent.
どうかしたんですか？
After a beat, Iba seemed to catch on to the pause in the conversation, prompting him to ask.
詳しいことは中でお話しします。どうぞこちらへ。
The war with the Sachos seemed to produce an uneasy atmosphere at Osaka Castle. Not a single person we walked past, however, was in uniform, nor did they seem prepared to fight or return to the battlefield. I found this quite perplexing, thinking so to myself as we entered the common room.
雪村、お前無事だったのか?
He was worried! I'm sorry. That's my only reaction to that statement. Hijikata-san, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you guys worry.
いや、生きて戻ってきたんなら別にいいさ。お前と一緒にいたはずの源さんが亡くなっちまってたからな。てっきりお前も殺されてるか、連れ去られちまったんだと思ってたが。
I mean,
よかった。
those are two valid options. The subject I had been avoiding to think about was brought up. I don't know what I could say that wouldn't have come out wrong. Anyway, so he did. Back then, I could only hope it hadn't been so. Such fears had crossed my mind at the time. However, I suppose I compelled myself to put it into the back of my mind for my own sake. Ichikata looked down, biting his lips.
亡くなった。深い刀傷を受けてな。
I gasped, but every breath felt heavy, like my lungs had suddenly filled with water. The gentle soul, As I had been as I had been acclimating, damn it, acclimating myself here. He always gave me so much support. To think someone so kind-hearted died so needlessly. I was beginning to be consumed with guilt, and Ichikata-san seemed to read my mood, continuing on.
だが負った傷は全て無効傷だった。たとえ勝ち目がなくても、あの人は最後まで戦いをやめなかったんだ。今回の戦で、あれだけ立派な散り様を見せることができた人間なんて、他にいねえさ。
Damn, damn. Although he didn't want to show it, Hijikata-san was overcome with emotion, and as I watched his eyes force back tears, my stomach was sinking.
そうだ。お前に一つ頼みてえことがあるんだ。
What is it?
山崎も今回の戦で深手を負っちまった。傷の手当てを頼めるか。
This hurts every time, damn it! I can't go through this again! Please, no! I suffer every time Yamazaki's name is spoken at this point of the game. I can't. The only peace I had was when he wasn't mentioned, or Okito's root. Fucking hell. Ah!
もしかしたらお前は見ねえ方がいいかもしれねえが。
Why? I can't with this game, I swear. Hearing even more bad news had sunk what little hope I had into a deep, crushing nothingness. Judging by the way Hijikata-san had said it, Yamazaki-san must have been in really bad shape. I understand that Hijikata-san may have wanted to save me from hearing the reality of it, but... No. It's fine. I'll see him as soon as I can. Please, if I may. Hijikata-san had seemed to loosen up a little.
そうか。あいつも喜んでくれるだろうな。
And while I had been hearing about what became to some of my comrades, Iba was celebrating his reunion with Motoyama.
イバ！生きててくれて本当によかった。行方がわからなくなってたから、てっきり。
心配をかけてすまない。もう大丈夫だから。
Iba almost choked on his words, hesitating a little before saying he was fine. It wasn't noticeable, I think, to anyone else.
他の大使たちはどうしたんだ？無事なのか？
はあ、みんなで一緒に大阪城に撤退してきたんだ。今まで土方さんと今後の動きについて話し合ってたんだけど。
Motoyama turned his head to look at Hijikata-san. That's a mistake, isn't it? This is Motomaya. It's Motoyama.
今後の動きの前にまず戦況がどうなっているのかを知りたいのですが。
Hijikata-san let out a huge breath, gritting his teeth as he faced downwards.
ま、俺たちがここに逃げ込んできてる時点で察しはついてると思うが、状況は良くはねえな。
ということは、この大阪城に籠城して戦うことになるんですね。
Iba expected Hijikata-san to agree with him, but... Oh, more mistakes, great! But... Both Hijikata-san and Motoyama fell silent. Hijikata-san was the one that spoke up.
本来ならそうしてとこだが、守る相手もいねえのに城にこもっても意味がねえんでな。
守る相手がいないというのは。
慶喜公はとっくに船で江戸に戻っちまってるらしい。俺たちも支度ができ次第 江戸に向かわなきゃならねえ。
Iba was awestruck, seemingly at a loss for words as he froze from hearing the bad news. His gaze fell to the floor.
まさか慶喜公が。
元奥詰めのお前には信じられねえかもしれねえがな。今回の戦は本当に信じられねえことばかり起きるもんだ。
いえ。
There seemed to be a strained effort coming from Iba to appear composed in front of Hijikata-san. However, it seemed like there was nothing he could say to oppose Hijikata-san's words. After a brief pause, Iba quietly lifted his head.
元山、遊撃隊も江戸に戻ることになるのか。
まあそういうことになる。
トシさん、新選組は今後どうするつもりなんですか。
俺たちだけここに残っても仕方ねえだろう。江戸に戻って体制を立て直すしかねえ。こっちが失ったものも大きいからな。細かいことは後で話す。奥の方に顔を出してやれ。他の奴らも心配してたからな。
Hi. My heart was pounding as the weight of the bad news was sinking in. However, I can't just sulk forever. Hijikata-san, Iba, and the men of the Shinsengumi hadn't shown any signs of giving up yet.
それじゃあ我々はそろそろ失礼します。申し訳ありませんでした。
そりゃ何に対する詫びだ。
僕は幕臣ですから。
Iba must have felt guilty from the actions of Lord Yoshinobu and his abandonment of the Shinsengumi and the rest of the shogunate army.
俺だって今は幕臣だ。お前に詫びられる筋合いはねえよ。
Iba felt a sense of relief from Hijikata-san's understanding, and he smiled in return. Then he and Motoyama stood up. I had found myself speaking out involuntarily, coaxed by the thoughts of Iba leaving me.
どうしたんです？
Iba stopped and looked at me. I'd almost apologized instinctively, but I was able to stop myself. I think that if I had apologized, it would have brought Iba's mood down again. Iba, I can't thank you enough for everything. Iba smiled kindly, like he usually does in response.
いいえ、礼には及びません。それよりも例のことは他の人たちには内緒にしておいてくださいね。
I gasped from hearing his request, looking around to see that Motoyama had overheard him.
なんだ？内緒って何のことだよ。
秘密です。
はい。
なんだよ。気になるな。まあ、俺たちに関わりがないことならいいけど。
Motoyama's a good man. He doesn't push where he really shouldn't. I had been escorting the two of them to the exit when...
あの子が生きてたって本当か？もし嘘だったらただじゃ済ませねえぞ。
Oh my god! Hello, incoming Baka trio into the common room. All of a sudden, Nagakura, Harada, and Heisuke came bursting into the common room. Their eyes were fixed dead on me.
よかった。もしあのまま会えなくなっちまったらどうしようかと思ったぜ。 どこか怪我してねえか？
No, I'm fine. I'm sorry for worrying you guys.
バカ、詫びることじゃねえだろう。無事で本当によかったぜ。
Iba watched as the Shinsengumi captains gathered around me, but eventually, I watched from out of the corner of my eye him leave Motoyama. I was in the middle of organizing some of the medical supplies Matsumoto-sensei had asked me. After finishing up my cleaning, my thoughts lingered on how Yamazaki was. Last night, I checked up on how his treatment was going, but the wounds were serious. According to Matsumoto-sensei, we would know by tonight or tomorrow if he would make it. Hijikata-san seemed prepared for the worst, offering only a worn, tired smile in response. The Shinsengumi had sadly experienced some huge blow as an outcome of this war.
こんなところにいたんですか。昨日の今日だというのに働き者ですね。
Iba.
あなたを探していたんです。江戸に戻る前に挨拶ぐらいはしておきたかったから。
It didn't seem like he was experiencing any negative effects, smiling softly back at me. How are you feeling? The sun has already risen.
それほど辛くはないようです。こちらも。
Iba pulled up his sleeve, showing me his left arm. Even at a glance, it was obvious the arm was not his own. His arm containing an untold amount of demon power within it. All to keep me safe. As I furrowed my brow looking at it, Iba picked up on my reaction.
あなたが気に病むことではないんですよ。武田さんはずっと恨みを晴らす機会を狙っていました。あなたがいなくてもいずれはこうなっていたでしょう。
He thinned his eyes, staring at me with a stern but gentle expression.
それにもしあの時のことがなければおせんさんは僕に鬼の腕を託してはくれなかったでしょう。この腕がある限り戦うことを諦めずに済む。だから僕はあなたに感謝しています。
From the window behind us, the sun was beginning to shine warmly on Eva's cheekbones. I tried to say something.
ほら、日差しの下でも平気でしょ。
As the sunlight made his eyes glisten, Iba kept his calm, kind expression and focus.
だから悲しまないで。私のせいだなんて自分を責めないで。
He may have been lying to keep me from worrying, but even so, the way he deliberately tried to comfort my fears left the anxiety weighing my heart down. Iba, what will you do now?
僕は徳川家の家臣ですから、慶喜公がおわすところに行きますよ。
But I wanted to ask how he could, considering Lord Yoshinobu abandoned all the men fighting for him. He answered calmly.
君足らずとも、真足らざるべからず。たとえ主君が 主君らしくない行いをしても家臣が家臣らしくない行いをする理由にはならないということです。トシさんたちもきっと同じ志なんだと思います。だとしたら負けていられません。
As Iba spoke passionately, he shined so brightly I almost needed to squint. How they all could retain their composure and senses of self perplexed me. Especially for Iba, being told directly from Sen that he was too insignificant to play a great role in the history of mankind. As I anxiously thought about the future to come, I couldn't help but feel somewhat depressed. But there's no time for that now. I must stay positive. Well, I think I should head back soon. As much as I didn't want to see him go. The longer I stayed with him, the harder it would be to see him off, so I turned around and initiated the goodbye.
待ってください。もう少しここにいてください。
Huh? My heart skipped as his voice came from behind me, stopping me in my tracks. What had gotten over him? Usually he just watched me tenderly as I left him behind. But never before had he said outright that he didn't want me to. More sunlight peeked through the corner of the window, making Iba's eyes squint cutely.
どうしてですかね。君と離れると思うとなぜか心が落ち着かないんです。
His voice quivered, and for the first time, Iba seemed vulnerable to me.
胸がざわめいて心が震えて江戸に着くまで守ってあげたかったって。もっと君のそばにいたい、この腕で守りたいって、それだけが心残りです。
Iba's eyes turned forlorn after confessing his worries to me, and he gripped his left arm, which was covered in a blood-soaked wrap. I couldn't just watch as he beat himself up. We'll see each other again in Edo, right? Iba quickly turned his head up, taking comfort from my suggestion.
もちろんですよ。また江戸で会いましょう。
Iba gave a weird smile and gave a big sigh. Iba held his left arm tightly, using it as an outlet to channel the turmoil bubbling inside him. After a short while, we both stared at the sun, which was completing its morning ascent. There was still so much to worry about, like Takeda, father, and Iba's new demon appendage. But even with all of that, Iba and I could share in the beauty of this new day together. January 1868. The Battle of Toba Fushimi ended with the Sacho victorious. As the shogunate troops retreated, the Shinsengumi headed towards Edo. 4 years ago, I came to Kyoto all by myself and searched for my father and met the Shinsengumi. I'm going to leave the city of Kyoto, where I made fond memories with the Shinsengumi. He gained the powers of a demon in order to protect me, and I have chosen to walk beside him. We are going to head to Edo without knowing what fate awaits us. Finn. Other things about Iba from this part so far. There's a lot of cute little scenes, like eating castella and stuff like that.